They're not Australians, though. The Tudors. These are the subjects in our lecture today. We're looking at the Tudors who are absolutists. There's a lot of death in this lecture. Get ready for it. The Tudors. Dates of reign. 1485 to 1603 in England. But the English also often claim Ireland, so they get Ireland too.
If you're doing dates of reign for England, wouldn't that, whole thing
Not
covers?
Tudor. The Tudors only ruled from 1485 to 1603.
It was a joke.
Whether England, France.
No, I got it. It's just not a.
Kids have never been to London. Weather fluctuates between pissy and horrible. There are about 20 different words for clouds. There'll be some high clouds today, followed by low clouds. Am I making this up?
No.
That's pretty much that.
Except there's a lot more rain.
Okay, that is England. Let's remind you of some of these people. Early modern England. You already know this. What kings emerged in the early modern period in Europe? Mio. What kings emerged in the early modern period in Europe? The new monarchs. Do you remember this? The medieval period is over. All of a sudden you have these new people who say, hey, maybe we should unify this whole country, and I should be the only ruler of it. And we should call it a state, and I'm it. Your dude in England was Henry VII. Henry VII helped end a civil war that lasted for 30 years in England.
Is this whether she could rule or not?
That's medieval history. You don't really have to know about it. However, Henry VII was a Lancaster. So there are all these families fighting each other. Their enemy were the Yorks. Now the thing about Henry VII is he was not only a Lancaster, he was also something else. Do you know how you have two last names? There's one from mommy and one from daddy. Okay. That's the same in England. In fact, I think they maybe kind of gave that system to us. So Henry VII and the Lancasters win the War of the Roses. Do you see that one family was red and one was white? Do you get that? So he combined the two families and invented what we would call the Tudor Rose.